Okay, I had a little glitch, but I'm back. So when you multiply two negatives, that comes out to a positive value. And why is that? Well, it's kind of that same idea that we have when you're subtracting a negative number. When you take away something that's negative, or when you remove something that's negative, those two negatives together give a positive value. And this works in our language as well. If you haven't done nothing good, then you have done something good. Those two negatives together make sense, which actually doesn't work in other languages. In a language like Spanish, you can have a double negative, and it makes perfect sense. So it works for us. It's a little tougher to teach in other languages, I suppose. Okay, a couple other things I wanted to show you here. Let's scooch this up a little bit. So if you have negative 3 squared, and that negative 3 is in parentheses, that's like negative 3 times negative 3. And that gives you, well, let's see here, negative times a negative is positive, and then 3 times 3 is 9. And the difference here is that you have this negative out front, but then it is squared. In the order of operations, exponents come before those positives and negatives, either in multiplication or exponents come before anything else, really. So it doesn't matter what's going on over here. That exponent gets taken care of first. So what this means is negative 3 times 3, which comes out to negative 9. This is incredibly subtle, and a lot of times we'll put something like this in our calculator when what we really mean is this, negative 3 squared. So this is actually something that throughout your math classes you're going to have to be really careful about, the difference between these two statements. If the negative is part of the parentheses, it's repeated twice. If the negative isn't in parentheses, it's not affected by the exponent, and it just goes out front. Okay, and that is kind of subtle, so I wanted to let you know that. Okay, so a couple square roots here. The square root of 9 is just 3. The square root means what number multiplied by itself will give you that. So 3 times 3 gives me 9. Down here, if I want that negative value, I would just put a negative out front, and that will give me negative 3. So whatever sign they put out in front here, you just copy over here. Okay, and there's a little bit more to it, but that is basically how we'll approach this in Algebra 1. And as you get up a little further, it's going to get a little more complicated, but for now, that'll be fine. Okay, there's also maybe a plus or minus sign you could see in front there. Again, whatever sign is there, just copy it over here. That's all you have to do. Okay, a couple more, and this is it, I promise. So, when you're multiplying fractions, and again, keep in sign all the positive and negative. You know, if one's positive and one's negative, the answer will come out negative. But I left them positive here for now, just for the sake of simplicity. So, let's multiply straight across. Ooh, let me change my color. Oh, it already matches. I don't want green. I already have green there. Let's use black. So, multiply straight across, and 2 times 4 gives you 8, and 3 times 5 gives you 15. So 8 over 15 is your answer there. And always check and see if it can reduce. 8 over 15 cannot reduce, so I'm going to just leave it alone. Okay. Down here, when you're dividing, I sometimes use the phrase copy, change, flip. You copy the 2/3. You change division to multiplication. And you flip this last fraction. So copy, change, flip. And once you do that, now you can just multiply straight across. So 2 times 5 gives you 10, and 3 times 4 gives you 12. Now, it's not always obvious when you should reduce, but when both of the numbers are even, that is easy to reduce, and you should always definitely do that. So let's take half of both these numbers, half of the 10, let's divide by 2, let's divide by 2. Half of 10 is 5, and half of 12 is 6. So 5/6 is our answer to that one. Okay, 8 over 15 didn't reduce at all, so I just left it alone. It's important that you're able to do this without using your calculator, because we're going to work on problems like I could put an X after that 5 or something like that, and you won't be able to put in your calculator. You're going to have to know what to do. You cannot just use your calculator. You cannot just make decimals. You can't do that. You'll have to know what to do. So be sure you're practicing it correctly. If you have questions, ask people in your group, or then ask me if they're of no help. What I want you to do is page 42, try the lesson check. And I'll be back with you in a minute. That's okay, I promise. Page 42, the lesson check.